celebrate Malcolm X's birthday because he was a great, great Afro-American. And Malcolm X is you, all of you. And you are Malcolm X.
I'm 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 Malcolm X. I am Malcolm X.
I am Malcolm X. I am Malcolm X.
I am Malcolm X.
I am Malcolm X.
Four in the morning, you got me up, all cause you need to talk. To 4 in the evening, wanna break up, say that you've had enough. I'm tired of talking, again and again, argue about everything. You are my darling, this kiss to make up, I know you wanna touch. You call me every night, call me every day, I just wanna get you alone now. Trust me when I say, we gon' be okay, we just gotta boom, bada boom, ba. I don't wanna fight, you know that I'm right. Baby, let me talk to your body. We gon' be okay, hear me when I say.
Don't. But Chris Norwood, this is Black History Month, and whereas Black men, we're trying to have these very timely but also very poignant conversations about the struggles that we all go through, Chris Norwood, as it relates to being Black men in America. And you have locks. And I want you to talk about your struggles of being profiled, blacklisted, blackballed, even with your natural hair as a Black man. So how would you like to add to the conversation, starting with one, Brian Flores, but also about the evolution of things you went through as a Black man concerning your struggles of living in America. Go ahead, brother.
All right. Can you hear me?
Yes, sir. Okay.
I want to first off say I appreciate allowing me to come up, and it's a great discussion, and I appreciate the content that you put out, and it's just great content. As far as what happened with what's going on with Brian Flores, it's an unfortunate situation, and I think it is actually good that he took that he's taking the route that he is. No matter what happens from it, I think it kind of can allow for other people to step forward. Like, it's okay. So with the NFL, so quite a few things going on. So you have the Rooney Rule, which was actually it doesn't really push for like the hiring. So there's not a hiring quota, but there is a interview quota of like at least you have to interview. So for every job opening, you have to interview at least one coaching candidate. And so I think sometimes that's a kind of misconception. People think that like, okay, well, more and more coaches, are going to get hired, but it's literally just, you just have to interview one person. Mm-hmm. So, and there's no incentivization for coaches to actually, Black coaches or minority coaches to be hired. Now that the Rooney Rule came into place, it was a result of a reaction from coaches that were fired in 2002. So Tony Dungy was one coach. He actually was coming off a winning season. He was fired. And then another coach, Dennis Green, he had 14 winning seasons, and like the one season that he, had a losing season, which was in 2002, he was fired. Statistically around that time. So what happened, there were some players like Kellen Winslow and another player, they went out, put together a group of people that did research, and they found that most of the Black coaches who were hired actually were very successful as far as, having a lot of wins. Right. And so Johnny Cochran was one of the lawyers on that. There was some other lawyers, and then they pushed for, some things to take place, and the Rooney Rule came up out of that. It was named after Rooney. I forgot the first name. Maybe first name might be Art Rooney, but he was part of like a diversity committee. But anyway, so that's one thing to realize. Another thing to realize is that in 1961, Congress actually pushed legislation, and it was actually signed off by former President John F. Kennedy, to allow for the NFL to actually, owners to pool together money to be able to, get certain deals. And so, for example, like deals with the media. And so essentially it actually allowed for it started the trail multi-billion-dollar corporations being able to have like a monopoly, and the NFL was basically rewarded for that. And so that started a lot of TV deals. Like annually, I think the NFL brings in like $7 billion as far as media revenue. And then also one other thing, there's like a tax incentivization. Like the NFL is like actually, they're actually considered under Section 501c6 of the NFL. And I'm looking at something right now of the Internal Revenue Code, which means that their headquarters is spared tax payments. And so those would be tax payments that would actually equate to about $10 million a year. So where I'm going at with this is when you bring out a case like this, which would be a federal case, discrimination in general is hard to prove. Right. And so therefore, because it's like you have to have like video of here, this person saying this, catch them in action, this person doing this, recording of this. So it's really hard. So even though you can kind of see it and certain things happen, it's very hard to prove. Now, it's a high threshold legally proven. There is a lower threshold to actually be able to prove retaliation. So that could be something that I haven't really heard people talking about, but that is something that, so for example, let's say whatever happens with this case, and then we all kind of have an idea, most likely it's going to be hard. The NFL is probably not going to hire him as a NFL coach again, or probably any coach, especially a head coach. Right. And so retaliation is a lower legal threshold to be able to prove. So I think it's good, because the thing about it is, at some point we have to stop being scared and we have to actually be able to walk through the fire, right? That's what Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King did. That's what Rosa Parks did when she wasn't going to the back of the bus. That's what Malcolm X did. Black Panthers with the programs that they had, 10-point program. We can just go down the list. At some point, you have to stop being scared and you have to be able to walk through the fire. And I think NFL players, right? That's a league over 70% are black. Right. I think they can take a cue, for example, from the NBA players on how they can use leverage. Because think about it. If the majority, when it comes to selling something, product and good service does matter, right? So even if a person doesn't have good customer service, if your product is still top notch, people will kind of excuse you not having the best customer service. Right. But if your product goes to, you know what, and decreases, you're kind of done for. So if major black players in the league took a stance even for a month, right, during the NFL season, that would be enough to really get some gears moving and to allow them to have more leverage, because they have leverage, they just don't realize it. And like you mentioned earlier, it really says a lot when you have people that are making hundreds of thousands of dollars, multi-millions of dollars, have endorsement deals, things of that nature, and they're still scared. The message that it sends to the rest of the country that are non-black, and the message that it sends to the rest of Black America, is that even though they're on TV and we're watching them, they still have this similar mindset as if someone who is not on TV has, and scared to speak up at their job or in their career or whatever the case. They're still walking on eggshells, even though they have the fame and the money and the status. Mm-hmm. And so if, again, players were to mobilize and even sit out some games, sit out for a month, that would be enough, because without the players, that's the product. Like, if all the black players were removed, somehow just walked away from the NFL, then you're going to be left with other minority players and white players. We already know the quality of the game is going to severely decrease. That's going to affect revenues. That's going to affect media as far as ads and people not wanting to do media deals. That's going to affect everything. And so, but the players don't realize it. It's like they're too scared. So that's what I have to say about that. It's good that he went out there. Unfortunately, when people do step forward and they're not scared to step into that light, sometimes they do kind of become like like what happened with Colin Kaepernick, where it's like, but Colin Kaepernick, really, he didn't need the NFL. Like, he had a lot of academic offers on the table before he even made it into the, not just for sports. So academic wise as well, a lot of people don't know that. Right. And so he knew what he was doing. And Brian Flores, trust me, even though he doesn't identify as black, yeah, he looks black to the optics, but he is Latino, but still he knows the risk. He's a very intelligent man, and it's a situation where he knows what he's doing. I think it's a good thing. I was watching that clip earlier. Susan Speaks was on there, and she said, like, is there an NFL problem with the pipeline or something? And I don't think that is. And I remember you answered, and I agree. It's the good old boy system, because look at the NBA. A lot of the executives in the NBA are former players, which makes sense. But the NFL is more of a good old boy system. The NBA is probably one of the most it is the most diverse professional league. Look at the fan base. Look at their hiring practices. And the NFL is, baseball, I think, is probably the worst. NFL is the most diverse, inclusive, and the NFL is in the middle, but it's still leaning more toward baseball with, we don't mind the players being out there on the field, but if it comes to anything executive on a large scale, or if it comes to coaching, there's a problem. So that's what I have to say as far as that. I personally have experienced certain situations. Of course, I'm a black man in America, free thinking, productive. And even when you go into a job and you just want to do the job, you're interacting with the team as far as what you need to do on the job, you'll receive all kind of things. I remember I had a situation where there was a presentation we were attending on the main floor, and there was a glare on the screen for the PowerPoint for the person presenting. Right. So a room full of people, nobody thought, and I'm sitting back waiting for somebody to get up and, either say something or turn one of the lights off where the glare was coming from. Nobody did. So I'm waiting. It didn't happen. So I just get up. I didn't make a big commotion. I didn't yell anything out. I walked over there. I knew, where the lights was. I figured out which lights it was that needed. And I went ahead and cut it off. And one of the managers, a white woman, she says, who told you to turn that light off? And she said, and there was other people around, and people heard this, because I had some people actually come up to me. A couple of black people came up to me and say, that was rude how she said that. And when she said that, I just said, well, I didn't know I needed permission to cut it off. And I went ahead and, sat down and, things of that nature. But I've had other things that have occurred as far as like, there'll be something that is going on, and we talked about it in the meeting. There was an event coming up, and when it comes to like break or something like that, and certain things weren't really discussed, is break after or before, and then you go ask the manager about it, and you get nasty attitude. And this was a manager. It was just a problem with me going in, just doing my job, minding my business. But this is just some of the things that I had today. I was in the grocery store, and I'm walking, I'm focused. And that's another issue. If you're focused and you're not on that silly type stuff, you know what I mean? Like, you're focused, you're locked in, right. And you just not on no, smiling, trying to crack jokes and do the Sambo dance. Right. Focused. You already know what you're dealing with as a black man in society, as a black person. So you're trying to be productive, get to the next level, reach back. Hey, you're just trying to live life, right? And I'm in the grocery store, so I know exactly what I want to get. And I'm walking, got my music in one ear, and it was a white lady walking, and she had on her like a white kind of coat. It wasn't bad looking. And I'm walking, other people are walking. She turns around like to the side, she looks, and she goes, she does one of these things. Mm-hmm. And sometimes you laugh, sometimes you don't. I'm just like, whatever. And I just kept walking. And she was actually in there. I saw her later. She was in there with, I don't know, her boyfriend or her husband or whoever it was. And it's things like that was so interesting to me is, how can you be, if you're that scared, then maybe you don't need to leave your house. Right. Like, we're in a grocery store. I had a situation at the job, one other thing, and it was, I'm walking, it's over at the end of the day. I'm on the parking lot. People are walking to their cars. Like, we all came out of the building. And usually, I will say, at where I work, I'm making sure there's not really a strict dress code, but for the most part, I wear khakis and a collared shirt, and I at least have my, my style. I have my top button, button up. And one of the main reasons why I do that, even though we don't necessarily have a strict dress code like that, is because I am aware of, dreads, and then me being a black man, and so I at least, with my dress. I'm gonna say two things real quick. So one, we were walking outside, going to our cars. One of the managers, she's looking all like she's so scared and terrified. I mean, it's just ridiculous. And I had another situation. I have plenty, but this last one I'm going to mention is I was coming in the building one time, and there was someone working there. And I had been working there longer than they have. And so we have to, we have fobs and everything where you have to swipe your fob to be able to get into, security and everything to get into the building. And you got to go through 2 different doors. And so, I go through he goes through the first, it's a white man. He goes through the first one. I go through the first one. I'm coming back from lunch. I don't know, wherever, maybe he's coming back. I have a collar shirt on, khakis. I actually look like, I didn't look like I just wherever, and he's got his jeans on, whatever he's got. And so when we get to the second door, because the first door you can just go in. The second door you have to do your swab, your fob. He opens it, walks through. Okay, I swipe mine. He's like, oh, what are you doing? I said, what? And he's like, so and so, and where's your ID badge? I said, excuse me. I said, I just like my card, man. Like, what are you talking about, man? I'm trying to get back from what's going on here. Things of that nature. And then security comes over, and then all of a sudden it's kind of crazy. They were acting a little funny too, and they see me going. It is just interesting, but it also shows you that they will stick together, and that's what we need to do. We need to learn how to mobilize. We got to stop being scared, and we have to stop thinking like, because one of the panelists mentioned earlier, it's like we have to stop thinking if we just, I'm going to go and do my job and make my money and come back and do all this other stuff. Like, that's not going to get the job done, because at some point you have to. Slavery did a thing on our psyche.
I agree.
It really did. And to the point where it kind of like keeps us comfortable enough to just go get a paycheck, go apply to this job, do that. It did a psyche enough to the point where it's like, if it's brought up in history books, or we see it on TV or Emmett Till or this and that, it's like where I think it kind of almost, with a lot of black people, it kind of, what's the word where it keeps you stuck? Is it immobilized or mobilized? You know what I'm saying?
Complacency.
Yeah, it keeps us complacent and like scared to, and always look at like white people as if, or / the oppressor as if they're the adult in the room in every situation. And they know it. They can see, I'm gonna tell you, they can see it in our eyes and in our face, and when we're around them. They know the black people who don't mind buck dancing and who they can tell to do whatever, do it, and they know the black people that are not going for that anymore. And like I said, NFL players, like, when are you going to stop being scared? Like, I get a person who doesn't hardly have any money, and then they're trying to come up, and so they're kind of going by the company rules and, trying to get their money and use it as seed money to start their business. People who have all of this money, fame, and access to resources and everything, and you're still scared, it sends a poor message not only to other Africans in this country, because we're Africans in America.
Right.
Yes.
You understand what I'm saying? We were here in South America before they got here. You know what I'm saying? The Indians were here in North America. You understand what I'm saying? Unfortunately, our ancestors came over against their wishes. That's what enslavement is. Slavery is being enslaved against your wishes. And we built this. All I'm saying is, I'm going to end on this right here. Anybody that says, well, sticking together can't do anything, or understanding our power and influence that we have, and withholding dollar won't work, like Black Wall Street didn't happen and things of that nature. All you have to think about is, and for people who say, they'll say, and I had this in the chat yesterday on somebody else's channel, I'm in on this. Somebody was saying, race, everything ain't about race and this and that. And I said, well, I understand that, but racism is as American pie. Like, to the point, I'm gonna end on this right here. To the point where it started with race, because you have to ask yourself, why were Africans enslaved? Because one, they know, for example, they know our physical capabilities, and they know of our work ethic and what we can do. So that makes sense to them for us to have gone through free labor slavery. Just like when they came over here, they saw that the Indians were larger than them. And so they used their weapons in order to, get them out of the way. right? They saw that the Indians ate a different diet. They saw that the Indians didn't believe in necessarily domestication of animals, but white people did. That's where a lot of these diseases came from, the domestication. So what I'm saying is they started with race. They said, okay, because think about it. Why didn't they have white slaves? So they started with race. And then from that, and shout out to Dr. Claude Anderson, they progressed that into economics.
Right,
well,
right,
how can
I
you
agree
use
with
this
that.
racial system and free labor and free slavery and build an economic system that can keep us at a certain level up here, and any other minority or race or other race down here. And that's why that created slavery, created the racial wealth gap. For every dollar that a black person has, it actually decreases to 66 cents. For every dollar that a white person generates, it increases to $5. And so anybody saying none of this matters and you guys are making it up and you're part of the victim Olympics and all this kind of stuff, it's nonsense. Because of those same people that's saying that are some of the main ones. When they're working at their job, they're doing the most tap dancing. And we can't get away from the racial wealth gap. All you got to do is look it up. If we don't start mobilizing and getting things together, look it up. Don't believe me. By 2053, black wealth will be zero. I didn't make it up. I'm just letting you know what the stats are.
No doubt, man. That was
and if we gonna pay attention, we gotta look at the stats. We'll look at the stats when the game is on, but are we looking at stats as what's really going on outside the game? And that's poor board.
No doubt. Hold on a minute, Chris. You dropping some fire, brother. Some fire for your mind.
Fire for your mind.
And these conversations are very important. And shout out to Chris Norwood. I mean, I'm casual observer. He said, geez, Chris Norwood. No doubt. You're very passionate. You must be a Leo like me.
No, Sagittarius, man.
Okay.
I'm not big in the zodiac stuff, man. I don't even get into that for real, man.
But listen, it's some truth to it. I know a lot of people don't believe in it, but you personify it. Sags are very intelligent, very intellectual, but they're fire signs, and they believe in speaking truth to power. Some would say very opinionated, very blunt, and I'm the same way. So you might not believe in it, but you do have the philosophical swag of the Sagittarius. And so I understand your point, Miss Parker laughed, because she's one. But did you go to college? And then I want James Turner to come on. But did you go to college in less than 1 minute, 2 minutes? What college did you go to, and what struggles did you experience? And I want James Turner to tell his story about what he went through.
Well, I went to Tennessee State University, so that's the HBCU. So, but you know what? I was almost
not bad.
I was almost. What'd you say? I
was saying not bad.
Right. I was almost getting ready to say I didn't hardly deal with it, but I got to stop on that. I did. Doing research, and I was in graduate school and everything. My research advisor, I had a class with her before she was my research advisor. I would hear different things about her as far as like, because she had actually invited me to do research in her laboratory. And so, I was talking to other students, and they would say, oh, no, don't go over there, man. And, she's this and that. She just was an older white lady. And I mean, I considered what they were telling me, but at the same time, I knew from the class that I had with her, I knew when it came to, that area, science, biology, I knew she was, when it came to that, she was one of the best. So I had to weigh, what I'm hearing, and then, me seeing that she knows her stuff when it comes to science and research and things of that nature. So I went ahead and I took the challenge. And so I was in the laboratory, and unfortunately, I learned a lot science-wise, experiment-wise, but do I think she was, I'm gonna put it this way. I would experience certain things in the laboratory, such as, 1 minute it's like she's cool, the next minute, be the same day, it's like a complete different person. Then it was a situation where I was actually teaching anatomy and physiology, laboratory 1 and 2 at the college level. So while I was, in grad school and everything. And I remember one of her former research assistants, and it was a black man. He pulled me to the side, and he just said, man, I just, wanted to kind of run this by you, man. Just be careful in there. I remember me and her, she just always kind of was kind of going at me. And one time she took my research journal and just threw it in the trash and poured coffee on it. And I'm just like, oh wow, man! I'm saying, thanks for letting me know. I just keep my eyes open, everything like that. I remember there was a time where we were doing experiments, so I was timing these cells that was incubating. So I did everything I needed to do, had them it was the incubation period, and so she had told me about it was another graduate program at University of Illinois. So I went and I had to go get the transcript. So I had the timer going and everything, had the cells where they needed to be for the incubation period. And I went to go to the office to get these transcripts ordered and everything. And I had everything timed. I came back, the cells and everything on the counter were missing. And so I'm like, hey, I had the cells here. Do you know where they're at? She started just ignoring me like I wasn't even talking. And, I kept saying something. And then finally she goes, well, you were gone and you had to left. I said, well, hold up a minute. I had the timer going. I had them out here incubating. I was at the step where I needed to be at. I had went to, the program you had told me about. I was actually going and getting the transcripts, and I just used that time to go run over there and do that real quick. And it was just, things would happen and there would never be an apology. I remember there was a situation too where we had to come and she wanted to come in on a Saturday. Like I would do so much research there and do different things. I had a key to that science building. And so she wanted us to actually, and I'm kind of in on this, but she wanted us to come in on a Saturday for like a team kind of building thing, but that different speakers come in. It was all right, but it was still on a Saturday. And most of us already were we were already kind of swamped with our work and doing everything and writing theses and all this. And it got to a point where it's like she was, we all went to lunch and then we came back because we had to wait in line for lunch. We came back a little late. She scolded us in front of the presenter and all this kind of stuff. And so I just went to her one time. I said, look, we were talking about some stuff. And I said, and she was so angry, she got up and left out the room, and we all went to lunch, came back. And so I just went up there and talked to her. I'm just like, yeah, look, we would appreciate it. We didn't do it on purpose or anything. We had to wait to get our food. We all went together, came back. And, can we move forward? Because we're already here. And I just told her, I said, look, we're already here on a Saturday. None of us want to be here because it's a Saturday. We're here Monday through Friday. We don't want to be here on a Saturday. Can you come back in, do what we need to do so we can get out of here? And so sometimes you do experience things like that. And I had a situation, and this is it really, in this situation, where I had, while I was working, I got my thesis done. And there was times where she would threaten to say, oh, you're not ready for your thesis to be done. Oh, you need to do this. You need to do this. Oh, we're not going to be able to finish. And it was always these like kind of threats, right? But I graduated on time and everything. But I never got my research work published while I was actually working in her laboratory, like nationally published. Not until after that, did she reach out to me one day and we were trying to get stuff published, but I don't think she put in the effort that she did for some people who weren't even in that master's program. You know what I'm saying? Like when it came to me, she wouldn't. And not until after I was out of there, and it was some time that passed, she hits me up and, oh, I've been trying to reach out to you. And we finally got it, this and that. And I was just like, oh, okay. All right. And it finally got published, but it's just like, I don't think that was a coincidence. And so it's unfortunate, but when you do speak out and when you do carry yourself like a black man that's about something and, you're just free thinking, productive, unfortunately, just being human, a lot of people are going to have a problem with that. And so you just have to be aware of that and keep moving.
No, you're right, brother. And, you definitely fire like me. You got some fire in you, man. And the struggle that we all go through as black men. James Turner, I want you to add to the conversation, brother, and thank you for that generous super chat earlier on. Talk about your time.
4 a.m, you got me up, all cause you need to talk. To 4 p.m, wanna break up, say that you had enough. I'm tired of talking, again and again, argue about everything. You are my darling, this kiss and make up, I know you wanna touch. You call me every night, call me every day, I just wanna get you alone now.